Three, two, one. We are now live.
Great.
Well, good morning and merry meet, and welcome to What is Clean Witchcraft. Close this before we are now live.
Great.
Well, good morning and merry.
Great. Welcome and thank you for, Lawrence, can I share my screen? It won't let me. It says the host disabled screen sharing. Oh, well. Oh, there we go.
Try it now.
I see it now. Thank you so much. All right. Can everyone see my screen? Fantastic. And hear me, see me, get too much of me.
You're
Well, that'll
great.
come. Well, thank you all for coming and welcome. My name is Morning Starfire, also known as Sherry Ellis, and I'm here to speak about clean witchcraft. I appreciate y'all coming, and I know this is an odd topic, so why don't we jump right in? What is clean witchcraft? Well, I kind of came up with the term, but after I started using it, I've started hearing other people use it. So I don't think I'm unusual for that, but just to kind of define what I was thinking about, you've heard about clean eating and clean living, attempting to live without added toxicity in your food and your air and your water, right? Your body. So I apply that to my witchcraft practice, and living a clean witchcraft life means practicing and living in a spiritual place while deliberately working to remove toxicity. And let me also say, we're human, we're alive, we're living in toxicity. Being completely free of toxicity is probably not possible unless you're Gandhi or somebody really special. I'm certainly not. So please don't hesitate to call me on if when I'm being toxic. I invite you to, because I want to know that it's happening if I'm not aware, because it happens to all of us constantly. And I really believe that when you're toxic, your toxicity leaches into everything you do, every experience you have, every relationship, and absolutely all of your magic. And so this presentation is a little bit on the beginner side. So if it does seem like beginner information to you, please just have patience with me, because I know this audience is a broad audience, and we will have a lot of new witches to this wonderful presentation. And by the way, this session, and by the way, thank you again, Lawrence, for putting on the Puget Sound Pagan Pride, because every year this is an amazing event, and I'm just so honored to be here. So my name again is Morning Starfire. I've been following the goddess path since 1986. I'm a priestess of Avalon, a devotee to Breed and Lou, my patrons, and everything Avalon. I have been studying with several large and small witchcraft groups since 1986. I studied with a big troop back in California, where I'm from originally, a group called Ecclesia. And they are a 1734 tradition. I got my second degree in my teacher's cord and have been teaching ever since. We moved since 1994. We moved here to the Seattle area in 1998, and I've been teaching on and off in the area since then. I've been running the Seattle Witches Meetup since I want to say 2000. I gave it to some students of mine for a while at one point and took it back, and so I'm still running it. Also a Reiki master in Usui, Karuna, and many other traditions. And I've also studied Native American shamanism in 2 apprenticeships. That's my background. I've been doing spirit work literally my entire life. My dad was from Peru, and so I'm half Native American from South America. He was an amazing psychic and also a narcissistic, abusive alcoholic. And so the first 25 years of my life were spent in a psychic spider web. And I was stalked, harassed by spirits, and living in a tremendous amount of toxicity. I'm sorry, I'm going to close this window. And I say that because I feel like it was an amazing training ground about toxicity and how to deal with spirits. And so I've spent my lifetime cleaning that and learning ways to deal with toxicity and negativity. I also feel very strongly that, especially with Breed and Lou in my background, that I'm really drawn to empowering people to find their true path and their path out of toxicity. That's why I became a healer as well. And I'm sure a lot of healers will say that, right? The wounded healer mentality. So I want to be aware of other people's toxicity, not only from my own reasons, but for the reasons of community and for empowering people to come out of that. I know there's an awful lot of people living in that same spider web that don't even, like I lived in my first 25 years, didn't realize I was in it, didn't know any other way of life. And I share that with you because I feel that's strongly part of my bio anyway. I'm sorry if I'm going along too long about that. Today, I run the Temple of Avalon, which is focused on healing and witchcraft work. It's headquartered at the Avalon Healing Arts Center in Silverdale. And we offer witchcraft healing, Reiki training, and other services. So what is energetic toxicity? And at a very low level, this lady in the first picture feels very relaxed, comfortable in her cave, right? And then some serious jerk pisses her off and she looks a little red. Anybody with any sensitivity can see that she's lit up. Don't bother trying to talk to her, right? She is toxic. And I'm not saying that to be judgmental, because everybody has been in that boat probably many times in this lifetime, right? But what I want to talk about is how toxic emotions and energies affect us and others. So this lady feels depressed and she might guilt you into solving her problems. This lady feels jealous. She might rob you blind, screw with your life. This lady feels super needy and might want to suck you dry. So people without clean energy systems are sharing those unclean energies, and it negatively affects others in a lot of ways. If you've never heard of Dr. Emoto, look him up. He did some experiments with freezing emotions in water and then using microscopic photography to take pictures of the crystals of that frozen water. And so in those crystals, I think this is really tremendous. He always said that water is the blueprint for our reality, and you could actually see what emotions look like from these frozen crystals. You can see the top row here is positive kinds of energy and words put into this water. Thank you, wisdom, truth, eternal, angels. This second row too, I love you, peace. They would say this word or phrase at the water and then freeze it. You can see that the positive crystals are more complex and visually pleasing, and the negative ones are ugly and simple. You fool, you make me sick, evil, polluted water. Um, and you can see polluted water before prayer and after prayer has a huge difference. Um, so I find that fascinating, and that's certainly a great visual representation of what happens energetically when we have these words. Toxic thoughts breed more toxic thoughts. If we're toxic and we allow our toxicity to rule our actions, we can spiral downwards into more toxicity and potentially take others downward with us. And we as magical beings are way more potent that way. So when we're pissed off and someone asks for help, we might get more pissed off, right? And as magical beings, we're going to make other people very upset. We can, I should say. If we're toxic and we perform magic, our toxicity affects our targets, right? So if I'm pissed off while I'm doing some magic to visualize a new job, I may end up manifesting a really toxic job. And actually, that's happened to me several times. I hope that parts of this presentation are great warnings of what not to do, because I've probably sat in these. I've probably made a lot of these mistakes. So as magical folks, we get it, right? I'm sorry if I'm preaching to the choir, but we have to own our shit. And I see a lot of this in the community of people not owning their shit and not understanding what, for example, political paranoia can do to your toxicity, using your wounds as weapons, hate programs that you may have grown up with. You may have. I certainly grew up with a lot of racial motivated hate programs. My mother is white from New Jersey, from a well-to-do East Coast family, and they hated my father and my whole father's family. And so I've lived with racial discrimination from my own relatives. And so did my brother and sister, who have blonde hair and blue eyes. And they got the other side of it, right? So anyway, those kinds of programs of hate that are deeply entrenched because we learn them at such a young age. An old trauma that is still coming back and hitting us. So when something upsets you, look at it. Why are you upset? How much of it is your own making or the result of being triggered from old things, old programs? So I'm going to talk a little more about shadow work in a minute, but at a really basic level, I just want to introduce that idea that when something or someone makes you angry or upset or fearful, try to ask yourself, is the current situation truly as bad as my feelings are making it out to be? So here's an example. Somebody at work yelled at me for something that I did wrong, and I got very upset. There was something in his tone that triggered me because it reminded me of the way my dad yelled at me. There's just the exact same tone. It had nothing to do with the current situation. Ding dong.
Sherry,
Uh-huh.
I just wanted a lot of times people talk about shadow work,
Mm-hmm.
and it comes up in a lot of different sessions. Would you take a minute to just give us a definition?
Sure. I think that's maybe my next slide. There we go. Shadow work. Um, Shadow work is super trendy right now, isn't it? But how is it? What is it? And how do you do it safely? And let me preface that by saying that I personally gave myself a nervous breakdown doing my own shadow work. And so I want to caution everyone about doing it yourself. Be very gentle and careful. And if your reaction is kind of out of control, seek help. There's lots of help out there. But the definition of the shadow is something that's elusive that we can't see about ourselves. it's hiding, it's something that our defense mechanisms are probably repressing and probably doing a lot of work to hide. Oh, okay. Most of us go to great lengths to hide some of that shadow stuff, right? And so it's super easy to ignore because you're kind of in this mode of hiding it. Don't let anyone see it. Don't let anyone get to know who I really am. And so exploring your shadow can lead to greater authenticity. It can, when you're understanding who you are and how you work, you can be honest, like I've been honest about my childhood. It can bring greater energy and awakening, but it also can be really dangerous. So many forms of shadow work are about having an inner dialogue with whatever shadow is coming up. So, for example, when I was feeling this fear reaction at work from this coworker that was yelling at me, I would sit down and have that conversation separately, or separating me from the 5-year-old me that was reacting that way, right? And I learned this in therapy. I've done a lot of therapy, really recommend therapy for helping to learn how to do this. But when you can separate your current adult person from the small child that's reacting however they're reacting, then you can do this work. You can explore and ask as a separate person, oh, little Sherry, why do you feel that way? How do you feel? Tell me, talk to me. What is going on? And you can also, if you don't know what's going on, you can start to ask by separating yourself from your current self from that self from the past that's reacting. You can ask it questions, you can talk to it, you can try and make friends with it, you can try and understand who it is and what it's trying to teach you, because it's coming up for a reason, right? It's coming up to warn, in my case, in lots of my case, it's coming back to warn me of danger, of, there's my dad, when he was having that tone in his voice, didn't matter what the circumstances were, whether it was something, like the house is on fire, or something really minuscule, like I just dropped a fork on the floor, right? Didn't matter. The tone in his voice is what's triggering me, and the tone in his voice would tell me, you're about to have a really bad situation happen. Something is going to threaten your physical or emotional safety. And so it can be about safety frequently. In the presentation, and I'm going to find a way to send out the PDF of this, there's a link to a book that really helped me by Robert Johnson, about owning your shadow. And I also wanted to provide a link to a local group, the Center of Sapient Living, for Sapient Living, excuse me. There's a group of therapists who are offering guidance, and they have a beginning shadow work program. And I added this little meme about judgment. So when we judge others, it can tell us about ourselves, and that can be a clue for where to start on shadow work. Does that make sense? Am I going too fast? Does anyone have any questions before we move on? Okay. Let me make sure I didn't. Yeah, okay, I did jump. So how to figure out what's happening and what to do. So when there's toxicity around you, how do you know what the source is and what can we do about it? As magical beings, right? There's certainly, the muggles in the world are going to have a different set of challenges than us magical beings. And it's a jungle out there. Life is really hard. And so a few magical things to try. Scan your aura with your hands or have a friend do it. And I really recommend having a friend do it because it's hard to smell your own stuff and feel it, feel what's different. But you can just use your hands like a couple inches from your skin and just scan your aura and you look for hot and cold spots, lumps, yucky feelings. There's certainly a lot of books and websites about doing that, but sometimes that's really helpful. You can ask a pendulum or do muscle testing, yes and no questions to help figure out what's happening. And I don't have a pendulum here in front of me to demonstrate, but that's if you're into pendulums, if you have a pendulum, that can be really helpful. Just holding the pendulum and asking yes no questions. So, is this my shit that I'm feeling? No. Oh, okay, it's somebody else's. Is it Joe Bob's? No. Oh, okay. Is it my boss's? Yes. Oh, okay. I mean, and go down that road. And muscle testing, the same thing. You can try doing chakra work. If you're familiar with chakras, you can open each chakra and feel the energy flowing from your root chakra to your sacral chakra, etc., up, and connect to your psychic self and see if that helps you at least gain clarity of where you are and what's happening. I really recommend that when you really don't know what's happening, to go get help. Get a reading, maybe get a Reiki healing done. I'm a huge fan of Reiki. And something that happens every day and a million times a day, whether people are aware of it or not, is that when somebody else is mad at me and wants to project anger or whatever toxic stuff at me, they will attach a cord to me. Like I said, either intentionally or not. I think there's a lot of psychic vampires out there and people like my dad. No, I don't know. Anyway, who may not be aware consciously of what they were doing, but that's what they're doing, is they're attaching a cord to your aura somewhere that they can feed off of. And so if you think someone's attached a cord to you and you're feeling weird energies that aren't yours, or weird emotions that aren't yours, that you can't really explain, that don't make sense to the situation, I recommend finding a Reiki healer that knows how to cut cords and ask them to cut them, because DIY, do it yourself, is sometimes a really bad situation for cutting cords, especially if you have no experience. Even if I personally, and I've done a lot of cord cutting over the 20 years of being a Reiki healer, but when I find cords on myself, I go and ask for help, because I can cut the cord and miss. I might make it worse. I might create holes in my aura. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, and it becomes the opposite. And if someone is attaching cords on you intentionally so that they can control you or attack you for whatever awful, stupid, toxic reasons they have, if you only partially cut the cord, or if they put 3 cords on you and you only cut 1, it only encourages them, because they're toxic, awful people that are doing this intentionally. Anyway, so we talked about shadow work. So any questions on that before I move on? Okay. So as magical folk, we have to keep ourselves super clean. Cleaning ourselves helps us reset our aura, release those cords and attachments and other crap that we pick up. Magical beings have much dirtier auras than muggles. I think that's my personal opinion, because we magical people are connecting to energies naturally, and these energies tend to attach themselves when we look into them. So I also do a lot of ghost work, and I will walk into a very haunted place and make a connection with some spirit or ghost. And excuse me, my sage is going crazy. And the spirit says, "Oh, look, somebody can see me. Yay." And whether they're meaning to be toxic or not, they will attach a cord to me and start draining me, and things can go really bad and wrong really quickly. So just because we are magical folk, whether we're intentionally walking into situations of toxicity or not, we will tend to be more open to the energies around us unless we're doing work, some of the work that I'm going to talk about here, like keeping ourselves clean. And so just be aware of that. So some of the things I talk about for cleanliness, I'm a huge fan of Epsom salt baths. They're very cleansing. Salt is very grounding. And who doesn't need self-care, right? A bath is like half an hour of bliss with the door shut and the candles going and the music, whatever you got, give yourself that beautiful half hour of self-care. Practicing self-love will help you stay soft and nurtured and connected, regardless of what negative energies are flying around you. Smoke cleaning can also cleanse you, restore your peace. White sage, of course, is very popular. We're not going to call it smudge because that's appropriation, but let's not go there. We are some other herbs that people can use are juniper, cedar. Oh, I didn't put cedar in there. Lavender, sweetgrass, really good cleansing herbs. And another thing that some of us techno-pagans don't do enough of is just going outside and earthing, right? Walking on the earth in bare feet. So don't need to go too far down that soapbox. I do want to talk about crystals a little bit, though. Crystals can also be super helpful in keeping you clean when you program them to. And clear quartz is a great all-around crystal for cleansing. It can absorb some of your toxicity. It can give you cleansing energies. And some clear quartz, a huge fan of, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but the temple heart formation of clear quartz. This is my baby. The temple heart is a formation of a point of clear quartz that has 6 sides. 3 of the sides have 7 edges, and 3 of the sides have triangles. And the temple heart crystal is fairly rare and super helpful at bringing you back to who you are at a really deep soul level. And this baby has saved my life more than once. This baby is a new purchase, but this is also a temple heart. If you look at the back, I don't know if you can see it, it's a 7-sided, and it is a point. Isn't that funny? But it's also this crystal has, I don't know if you can see it in there, but it has a point inside, and that's called a manifestation crystal. Also super powerful. We can also talk about other cleansing crystals such as sugarite, black tourmaline, and hematite. Where's my black tourmaline? Big baby. Black tourmaline, especially in front of your computers, super important. Organize, another one. I have this beautiful pyramid in front of my computer that is black tourmaline, clear quartz, and pyrite, fool's gold, which is also super cleansing. And let us not forget citrine, Mr. Cleansing Quartz, that I didn't put it in the list of cleansing crystals, but citrine, super powerful. So as magical folk, we also have an obligation, I think, to shield and protect ourselves. Shielding protects us from others and protects others from us. Magical beings are way more potent. Just walking around, we are having interactions with people, whether we mean to or not. We vibrate harder and faster. We send out cords to other people, whether we realize it or not. So we may be vampiring and forming attachments if we're not aware and careful and shielding ourselves. So ask yourself the last time you were, in a conversation with someone and you felt the need to really know what they were thinking. So you might be scanning them, right? And that's really a form of attack. You might also be trying, even though that's may not be your intention at all, that is really a form of attack. We also may feel others doing that to us, right? Especially other magical people, trying to scan our brain and know what we're thinking. And so we need to shield from that. It's one of the first things I like to teach when I'm teaching witchcraft is shielding and protection, because it's a sad truth, but there's many baby witches. God, I really don't like that term, but that's what people are calling themselves these days. Baby witches are super vulnerable to energy predators out there. As people start to notice the psychic plane and go out there searching, they put out a large beacon, or they can put out a large beacon light that attracts predators and nasty people. And even us older folk that have been around for a few decades on this path can become vulnerable if we're sick or tired or weakened for whatever reason. And when we become vampired by someone else, we take on their toxicity as if our own, or we become ultra sensitive to triggers that aren't ours. So if you feel that happening, shield. And this is the easy way to shield. Imagine yourself standing inside a gigantic bubble, which is clear, flexible, impenetrable. You can change its colors or the material that it's made of to whatever you want. I was actually taught to visualize it being the metal of a bank door, which is a foot thick. When you're really feeling attacked or threatened, or for whatever reason you want to, maybe you're feeling toxic, maybe you just had a toxic thing happen to you and you want to shield other people from your toxicity, put up a shield. So you can also visualize it as a mirror, or as one of my favorite authors, Christopher Penczak, taught me. I love him, by the way. Visualize your shield as a diamond with a million facets, and any energy that's being sent at you just is deflected and bouncing off harmlessly. I'm not a fan of putting the intention on your shield that it bounces back at its perpetrator, because, well, we'll talk about that in a little bit too, but it only encourages the cycle of toxicity between you and that other toxic person. So just let it bounce off harmlessly. Let it go down into Mother Earth and be recycled. Let it be clean. Let's stay clean. Banishing psychic vampires. Oh, hello. Ding dong. Does someone want to interrupt me? Have a question or something?
No, I think you just heard someone join.
Oh, okay. Cool. Oops. So I love this quote. By the way, if you haven't found or experienced Lydia Angelis yet? She's a witch from Australia who's been writing books since I think the 80s. She's awesome. Please catch her, grab her book. So one of my favorites from hers is Witchcraft Theory and Practice, but published Llewellyn. And this is a quote from that book. They're difficult to pick initially, wearing the guise of something to attract your attention. And attentive they will be, buying your way into your life with flattery or gifts. Or in my case, and this has happened to me as a baby witch and as a mature witch, walking into a metaphysical shop where, for whatever reason, either the owner or some other customer in the shop doesn't like me. Bam, bam, bam. Anyway, the banishing of psychic vampires, whether they're intending to vampire you or not, is a big topic of conversation amongst witches. And I've been, and I'm sure many others have been involved in what they call witch wars, right? Group A decides that they hate Group B for whatever reason, and maybe it's a small dispute, or maybe it's a deep philosophical dispute, but they just start throwing energy balls at each other and attacking each other, and everybody becomes a psychic vampire, and that's just a really awful thing. Oops. So, if I'm in a place for whatever reason, and this just happened to me the other day, a couple days ago, is I stated my opinion on Facebook. Gosh, stating your opinion on Facebook is a great way to get attacked sometimes. And I did. I attacked. I gave my opinion, and somebody didn't like it, and so they started to attack me. And I felt a cord form in my throat, and they wanted to start a witch war. They really wanted to invade my Facebook group for the Seattle Witches Meetup, and bring in their toxicity and throw it around. And what they're doing really is asking if other people enjoy that feeling. Ooh, do you like the taste of this toxicity? Come join me. And so he got banished, he got blocked, and he got booted from the group. But before I did all that, I did this Banishing Chant. And I learned this from, there's a lady, and she's not a witch, but she's a medical doctor, Dr. Karen Can, who teaches classes in how to banish negative entities. She calls them eggs. And so I call them negs now. And negs can be people, they can be spirits, they can be anything negative. But when they come to attack you and you can't get rid of them, you can try doing this chant. I now command that anything, blah, 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 be 100% completely removed and healed, and all my energetic space is filled with love and light. And if you say this, you can say as much or a little of the chant as resonates with you. But before you say this, stand in your power, stand strong, right? And be like, I now command. Ground yourself, pull up the energy of the earth, call on your gods and goddesses, and say, I now command. And I've had good results. Hope you will too. Sometimes this shit just comes out of the blue for no reason. Another thing to be aware of, too much positivity can be toxic. I hope I'm not upsetting anyone so far, because sometimes I can be a little too positive, but positive affirmations don't work for everyone. So you might try, okay. Might try some of this. So sorry. Gosh darn it. Close this window. There. But I want you to be aware that I want people to remember that our journey on this path is spirituality, connecting with the divine, and so I want you to remember that in embodying the divine, the high priest or priestess needs to be feeling like the god or the goddess, and changing our perception and our petty struggles, and being at our very core the goddess. And I put a call in here for you to do if you'd like. I also wanted to just say quickly, in karmic situations like a child's being harmed, someone is harming pets or stealing, a lot of people are going to, their first reaction is a curse or a hex or a freezer spell. And I would say that makes you their the next victim, and enrages these toxic, crazy people even further, in my experience. And then you're adding more toxicity to an already toxic situation, and everybody feels worse. So I recommend you put shields and wards on the victim and try to heal everyone involved. Reiki, super good, and enlist the help of some gods and goddesses to deal justice. So I'm a huge fan of Mayat. When we were carjacked at gunpoint, I called Mayat, and we got the car back, and they caught the guy, and he got 18 years. Woo, how often does that happen? That was California. So remember that the universe has your back. We are tiny beings, and we will get buggered for hubris. And you don't have to save everyone. In fact, look at your patterns, do some shadow work on it, and ask, what's your skin in the game, right? Who appointed you the savior? If you're truly being honest, what do you get out of it? Does it make you feel powerful? So anyway, that's my conversation, and I'd like to open it up with questions. And if you're interested in connecting with me or connecting with the Temple of Babylon, is a list of links and our upcoming calendar of events.
Sherry, thank you so much. Nicole, please go ahead.
Hi, Sherry. Thank you so much for that, and all the wonderful resources that you provided this morning. I was thinking about something. We were talking about people who are toxic and attaching strings to others, or tendrils to others. Can you discuss the difference between that kind of behavior and the kind of intimacy that comes with sacred space?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So what you're saying is some chords are positive chords and some chords are negative chords, right? And
well, I had never heard it described that way before, and certainly it makes a lot of sense to me as you were as you were talking about it. But then I thought, gosh, what if I'm in sacred space, and God's willing, we'll all have a chance to stand physically in sacred space again soon.
Mm-hmm.
But how would I know, where would that balance be? Because in my mind, standing in sacred space with other worshipers or other celebrants does require some shield lowering.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for me, it's connecting with the people in sacred space is part of the deal for me.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be for everyone, but I wanted to kind of discuss the differences, the contrasts, and what does one do in a situation like that? Because that is a very vulnerable space.
It's huge.
Yeah,
it's huge. And I didn't want to go there because I kind of felt like if you're not already actively going down that road, actively either in a coven or looking to join a coven or in deep training, you may not have made that commitment to being in sacred space in a place with people that you trust, and it's a great conversation though. I probably should have gone there. The experience of being in circle with with people that you can trust is always a wonderful thing. If you can completely lower your shields and say, this is who I am, and I welcome in the energies of the universe, and I welcome deep connectivity with the people in this circle with me, and it allows you to do the positive version of what I was just talking about, right? Which is sharing each other's energies and sharing each other's connection to the divine, and making one giant connection to the divine in a really loving and safe place. And I wish that safe place was out there everywhere for everybody. And unfortunately, in this world, we have so many toxic people, and people even calling themselves witches that are toxic, that going to a circle and lowering your shields without knowing people can put you in a place of danger. And so if you are going to other circles and looking to make those connections, be careful. Spend some time with people first before you enter a circle with them, or do really not high energy kind of work with them. Hang out in an online tarot gathering, or even a public Sabbath, celebrating Mabon or something, that's gives you an opportunity to get to know people, and before you bring your shields down.
That sounds fantastic. I was just thinking, as you were just, did such a beautiful job of describing the difference. Is for those who are running the circle or the gathering, it's also, I think, something to be aware and conscious of the energies that people are bringing into the thing that you've decided, to hold for others. Basically, I hesitate to call it leadership, because not all leaders look like leaders.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going, for me, if I was going to hold a circle, it would be something that I would want to be conscious of. What kind of energies are people bringing, and make sure that,
Sure.
that to the best of my ability, they would be in the safest place possible.
Absolutely.
That kind of work.
I think we've got a couple of other questions before we wrap up.
Okay.
If you'd like to take some others, Sherry.
Mm-hmm. Fluffy, are you next? Jason?
Yeah. So I
What do you
noticed
prefer?
that you're either.
Oh.
Thank you. Yeah, my pendulum says I truly am labeled as both. So, yay. I noticed that you're drinking crystal water.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm familiar with the product, and I'm asking this question for the benefit of other viewers. Why do you recommend drinking energized water? How does it affect your life? How does it affect your work? How does it affect your vibration?
Sure. So I don't know if you can tell, but what I'm drinking right now, it has rose quartz in the bottom, and actually this particular product came with several little bags of other crystals. It came with citrine and amethyst as well. And so for me, rose quartz is pure love, and I take all not all of my crystals, but many of my crystals, including the bags of the crystals that go in here, out in the full moon to charge them. And I also cleanse them with sage, and I reprogram them. I really hate that word, but instill the intention for them to energetically help me do my work. And rose quartz, of course, is tremendously healing. For me, it's that mother energy. It's like mom giving the little kid a big hug and tell them everything's okay. And so what I try and do after I charge the crystals once a month in the full moon, I'll fill it with water and I'll let it sit for an hour or so that the water can leach up some of that energy from the crystals at the bottom. I also have, I don't have it here, but I have another one where it's just got one giant point crystal in the bottom. I'm sure you've seen those as well. And I've been experimenting. And by the way, I'm a huge advocate of saying treat treat circle as a laboratory. See what works for you. Don't take anybody else's word for things. And so I've been experimenting with using the same crystals in the, with the same water and seeing how it affects me differently in this bottle versus the other bottle. So, because I think there is a difference. I think that these smaller crystals have a different, more gentle, but kind of diffused energy that they give the water, and the ones with the one big crystal put out more energy, but it's more directed, which of course makes sense since you've got a big point. Does that answer your question?
Yes, but how does drinking the water with the energy of the crystals help you help you versus just holding the crystal and absorbing it through your chakras or whatever?
Oh, sure. Great question. So some of my crystals are a little too big to hold. That's one reason. But if I think what it does for me is it gives me the what am I trying to say, that like it's kind of like background music, right? When I'm intentionally, I've got to work on some energy that's really bugging me, or I'm feeling like that lost 5-year-old again. I'm going to go grab my big rose quartz and hug it. But I will own that I had some nervousness coming to this conversation. I didn't know what was going to come up, or who, if I was going to put my foot in my mouth again, like I usually do. And so drinking charged rose quartz water put me in that loving feeling by just drinking water and, not intentionally doing any hard work. I like drinking rose quartz water when I'm at work, when I'm going to have a meeting with someone that bugs me, or I'll drink citrine water in the morning because that's really charging and cleansing. And it's also more subtle because you're just drinking water, right? It's something you can just keep doing.
Sherry, thank you so much for sharing your experience and knowledge with us. Any final questions before we wrap up and say thank you for today, and thank you all for joining us? No, wonderful. Well, I appreciate all of you. This was streamed live on YouTube, so it's available for replay, and you'll be able to watch it and share it with so many others. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for coming. I really appreciate your energy here. It's been a beautiful place to share, and I wish you all the best in your magical practice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.